The NES holds a special place in the heart of my generation. For many of us, this was our first console that we had at home. So when I was a young boy, my uncle gifted me and my sisters his NES, along with his extensive collection of games and controllers. Amongst those accessories, it included the zapper pistol for Duck Hunt, a joystick so you could fly around in Top Gun, a controller so you could better maneuver in Galaga, and a controller that made it feel very much like an arcade cabinet with the joystick and the large buttons that you could play in any of these games and feel like you were at an arcade. So me and my sisters had a blast playing through some of these games. Some of our favorites were Super Mario 3, Zelda, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and many, many more in our collection. So I have vivid memories of spending an entire Sunday afternoon playing with my sister in Super Mario 3, trading off between Mario and Luigi. And in that particular game, one of the things I remember the most is there are places in this game where you could get to a mushroom, and Toad would allow you to choose from 3 treasure chests, and you would get a free item. Well, there are locations in the different worlds, in the different maps, where if you didn't complete a level, then you didn't get access to that. And so if you purposefully skipped a level and made Luigi, my sister in this case, go play that level and complete it, then I got to go get the item from Toad. And so I strategized for that game, trying to do that. And of course, playing so much in this particular game, we learned tons of secrets just playing through it. Learned where warp whistles were, how to get through certain levels much more quickly, how to find secret areas, all those types of secrets I remember finding along with my sisters as we played Super Mario 3. Now recently, my family helped me track down our NES system at my parents' house, and this system has survived countless gameplays. It's survived moves across the state of Texas, it has survived an attic for a number of years, and it still plays like it was brand new. So today I'm excited to bring you this video, which is a comparison of that system with one of the new systems that Nintendo released recently called the NES Classic Edition. Now, the NES Classic Edition is a machine in itself with 30 games that were on the original NES system, cram-packed into this small console. The controller is the same form factor, same size as it was on the original system, but 30 games available. And it also includes other cool features that we'll talk about in this video, and about, as I review the two systems, how they're different in the different games. But obviously, the collection of games that we had as a kid does not match one for the 30 games that the NES Classic Edition has. So many of those games that are on the newer system, we didn't have as a kid, and many of the games we had as a kid obviously are not on that system. So I'm excited to bring you this review video of these two systems and compare them and let you see for yourself what the differences are. So let's go ahead and go check it out. Let's jump into the technical specs of these two systems. The original NES ran a 8-bit microprocessor, and it was running about 1.79 megahertz. For the NTSC version of this, which primarily served Japan and the United States, there's a PAL version of this which was 1.66 megahertz, but basically running around the 1.5 to 1.8 megahertz on the CPU. Now, it only contained 2 kilobytes of onboard work RAM. Now, that is 0.002 megabytes, which is tiny in my head. Some of the cartridges actually came with expanded memory, so anywhere from like 8 kilobytes of extra RAM in the cartridge all the way up to as high as 1 megabyte. But most of the time it was between 128 to 384 kilobytes that came in the cartridges that had the expanded RAM to help facilitate the gameplay. Now, in the NES Classic Edition, this thing is running a quad-core processor, and each of those cores is running at 1.9 megahertz. Now, in comparison to today's computers and gaming consoles, this is not very fast. It's actually kind of low end, but with the 4 cores, it's able to process the game, be able to run it just fine without any problems. The RAM on this system is at 256 megabytes of DDR3, more than sufficient to accommodate all these games, which are actually not a lot of information in RAM at any given time, which is pretty cool. And then they've added in 512 megabytes of flash storage, and this is what I believe all the game saves are actually saving to this 512 megs of this flash storage. Let's talk about how you connect this system to your TV or monitor. The original NES system had really two connections, at least in my version. Other versions, I think they may have only had one or the other. The primary connection that I remember using as a kid was the RF switch, or the RF modulator. Basically, that's the white connection that would connect from the console into this switch, and then that would connect to a coax cable that would connect to your antenna input on your TV. And then in the little switch, it had a connection where you could put your TV antenna, so you didn't have to unplug in order to switch back and forth between TV and the gameplay. Now, it also had a AC adapter, and the switch in the middle was interesting, and that allowed you to switch between either channel 3 or channel 4. So you would change your TV channel to either channel 3 or channel 4 based on what this switch was to actually get to play the console. I think that's, something that I wouldn't have remembered, except that I have this NES system with this little switch on the back. Now, the other connections on the other side of the console is the audio-video switch. The audio and video RCA output. And so that's the mono audio and the video that went into the RC cables on the back of the TV. So two different ways that you could connect the old NES system to your TV. With the NES Classic Edition, they only offer HDMI output, which for a person like me who is recording gameplays, that's actually really handy because the HDMI output can go into my capture card and I can capture the gameplay from this system. It also had a DC in as far as power is concerned, and that's actually run off of a USB cable and a little power brick that we're familiar with from our phones, all that, our tablets, all that kind of stuff plugs in using that DCM. The next topic is actually about game saves. Now, in the NES console, it does not natively have a way to save or persist game progress through console shutdown. So some NES cartridges actually included a battery backup save, which is actually pretty clever, where the game would actually have a battery that would power a chip that would actually save your progress directly to the cartridge. Now, obviously, with the battery life, it might not last very long, and after 20 or 30 years, all the saves on all these games have been gone because there is no battery that's powering the RAM or ROM. I'm not exactly sure on that particular chip to be able to read back what was saved all those years ago. Now, some other games actually had a different clever way to recall your game progress, and that was by providing you a password or a passkey once you've reached a certain point in the game. So if you passed a certain boss or something, it would show a passkey on screen. You would write down that passkey, and then if you wanted to come back to that after you shut down the console, there was a screen at the beginning, title screen, where you could enter in that passkey and basically start at that same point in the game. Now, some games just didn't even have any save functionality at all. So if you were working your way through a game, one of the only options you had was to leave the console on and hope the power didn't go out. And wipe out all your progress. And we did that sometimes, but for the most part, I don't think we care that much about how far we had gotten into these games. We just enjoyed playing them. So I know a lot of folks probably left the NES on just so they didn't lose their progress. But of course, if you turned it off or if you switched out the games, there goes your game progress. Now, the NES Classic Edition makes saving a breeze. Anytime you're inside a game playing through something, all you have to do is click the reset button on the console, and that brings you back into the main game selection menu. And whenever you come back into the menu from playing a game, you'll see a little floating snapshot of the game using little angel wings to kind of float around, fly around. and it gives you a guide on how to save your progress. You click down, you select an empty slot to save in, and then there you go, your game is saved. You can lock it from being deleted, or you can delete old save slots to clear out some space. But as far as I can tell, there are 4 save slots for each game, which is so cool. Like, you can have 4 different sessions of each game and saved up, and you should be good. Now, there might be a limit to how much of these you can put in there, but with 512 megabytes of flash storage, I don't see that being a problem. Now, it might be, not sure, go check it out for yourself. You might read up on the internet. You know what I'm saying? Don't listen to some YouTuber, he's an idiot. One of the most disappointing things to me about the NES Classic Edition that has come out recently is the controller itself, and there's a couple of reasons behind that. First and foremost, I'm disappointed that it didn't come with 2 controllers. There's several 2-player games on the system, and you can't really play 2-player games without 2 controllers. And I mean, you have to unplug from player 1 and plug into player 2 and swap back and forth, and most of these games are that way where you have to swap and trade turns anyway, so you know, it's possible, but it's obnoxious. And so I would have preferred that it include 2 controllers, and I probably would have paid like $10 extra to include a second controller. However, you can go out and buy an additional controller. It turns out that at retail price, it's like half the cost of, it's half the price of the entire system, and so that seems a little bit ridiculous to me. There are off-brand versions of the controller you can buy. I'm skeptical on their quality and how good they are. You know, maybe there are some out there that are good. I personally don't know, and I'm not even sure if I'm gonna go buy one. I was just kind of disappointed that there weren't 2 to begin with. It's definitely gonna reduce the chances of me actually playing 2-player games, right? Than if it already had one in there. The second thing about the controller that was disappointing, and a lot of people have said this, is the length of the cord for this controller is ridiculously short. I'd estimate maybe it's 2 feet long, and it's at least 1/3 as long as the original controller cable has. And so with the original system, I'm able to sit on my couch and play on my TV. With the new system, I can't do that simply because the cable is way too short. And if I tried to do that, I would be sitting on the floor like I was a little kid on Saturday morning, staring up at the TV, trying to play video games. So a little bit disappointed that the cable's so short. I have been playing all the games on NES Classic Edition from my desk in my office because I'm doing recording. So it really hasn't impacted me yet, but if I tried to hook this up to my TV, that would definitely be a problem and would be super obnoxious to have to deal with. As far as gameplay is concerned, both systems play very, very similarly in my opinion. Now, the differences that I did notice were more with the controllers themselves. They feel very comparable, though the newer version of the controller feels a little bit more stiff. And I'd like to attribute that to just being new hardware and just, you know, having a little bit of time to work in will probably get a little bit smoother to me. But it's also possible that the old controllers just have so many hours of gameplay already on them that they're kind of, you know, worn out and, you know, just kind of worn in, I guess is a better way to put that. Now, I also found that playing with the newer controller, it seemed like it more frequently misinterpreted which arrows I was pressing. Like, oftentimes in Mario, I'd be trying to press down to duck to get away from one of the piranha flowers, you know, fireballs, and it still didn't recognize that I was doing that, and it would recognize that I clicked left and, you know, stepped right into the fireball, which was obviously not my intention. And so I didn't feel like that happened as much on the original console, but it definitely happened more often than I would have liked on the newer console. That may be just improved hardware sensing capabilities for the controller, or it might be that the different aspects of the controller are just newer and will kind of even out a little bit more over time. I don't know, but that was just my impression on first playing it. Now, one of the huge benefits of the new system is being able to switch between games is so easy. You click the reset button, go back to the game selection menu, you can save if you want, and then you are off to go pick one of the 30 games from the screen. On the old console, obviously it's not that. You have to actually get up out of your chair, go open up the lid of the console, remove the old game, get the new game that you're going to put it in there, turn it on, hope that it launches the title, which in most cases for all our games, they've launched except for one of them. And then if it doesn't, you pull it out and you blow in it because there might have been dust collecting in that cartridge, or the connections might be pretty much going bad by this point. And then you insert it back in, hoping that it's going to spring back to life and show you that title screen. So, you know, because of that, there's just, you know, that opportunity for those cartridges to go bad. Whereas the Classic Edition, if one of the games goes bad, basically all of them go bad because they're all in the storage of the game. They're all stored within the console itself. So, you know, you're either going to be able to play the game, or you're not going to be able to play any game on the new system. However, you know, with that comes a small downside, right? The collection of 30 games that you get with the NES Classic Edition are the ones that you're going to be able to play. Like, you can't add new games to this as far as we know so far. So, you know, you're pretty much stuck with those. Now, if you happen to come across a cool game from a retro gaming store or from a garage sale, you're not going to have any luck playing it on the new system. So, you know, I don't know. Is that actually going to happen? Probably not. The 30 games on there will be plenty for you to play through, and definitely get some of that nostalgia feels from playing these old classic games. As far as size and portability, the new version just cannot be beat. Like, the entire console is about the size of a hefty ham sandwich, and it seems like it's about at least 1/4 of the size of the original system. Maybe less, like maybe even smaller than that. Now, however, you know, as I thought about this a little bit, given the current generation of gaming consoles, the original NES is actually not that much different of a footprint than those beefy consoles. I'm thinking about the PS4, the Xbox One. All those consoles are really about the same size and footprint as the original NES. So actually, it's kind of impressive that even back in the mid 1980s to the mid 1990s, that, you know, this system was really about the same size as our existing consoles. Now, obviously, it doesn't pack as much power or features, but, you know, it's not taking up much more space around your TV than the current generation of consoles. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode as we took a look back at the original NES system and compared it to the new NES Classic Edition. Man, I have just hit so many nostalgia nerves just playing through these games and getting to talk about this old system that I remember vividly as a kid. And hopefully you've enjoyed that as well. If you'd like to see me play more of these games and provide live commentary while I do so, be sure to throw a comment down below and let me know which of the games would be your favorite to see on the channel. Now, go ahead and leave a like down below if you've enjoyed this video, and if you haven't already, be sure that you're subscribed and be sure you hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I post a video. Thanks for sticking around. We'll see you next time.